Hello, here is my presentation for this week. So, why do schools become hotspots for political issues? We sort of see this throughout history and throughout all countries around the world, really. We saw it during the Civil Rights Movement, where they trying to integrate races together. And you see it in history for things like the rich didn't want their kids in with the poor, so they made sure they were separate. And we also see it in like other countries as well. I know there was issues in Australia with the Aborigines and the whites um, being educated together. People had issues with that, or also even things like making sure certain races are educated to be a certain way. And I think the issue comes from the rising people are concerned about their children and the rising generation because what they're taught is what will mold society in the future. So what happens in schools, what they're exposed to and what they interact with will directly affect the future of the nations and society as a whole. I think that's why schools become such a hotspot for political issues. How can we expect integration when communities themselves are predominantly one race or another? This is something I have seen a lot while working in schools, is that the kids kind of live in this bubble, and their community is a bubble, and I haven't seen it not just here in the US. I saw it back in Australia as well. There'd be parts of the cities where they were all Chinese people, or they were all Polynesian people, or they're all white people. And because of the drawing areas of the local school became mostly that particular race. And so a lot of their things were culturally around what the race did and ate and talked about and so forth. And I see it here in the US as well, where I work. The school is like 85% Hispanic. So a lot of the kids speak Spanish. And they all hang out with just other Hispanic kids and talk Spanish together. And there are white kids and there are African American kids too, and they seem to gravitate to each other as well. And I don't think that's like a prejudice thing. It doesn't seem like a prejudice thing because they all have no issues with one another. I think they just relate better to each other in different ways, like because of the way they're culturally raised. Like with the Hispanic kids, they all speak Spanish so they can speak Spanish together and things like that. So I think as long as it's not a problem with being hateful, I don't think the integration being changed would be a problem. How can I discourage discrimination toward the minority? I think again that's just basically just encouraging people to just be kind to one another and to not let differences be a problem or an issue worth fighting over. And I think playing favorites is something that people accidentally fall into a lot. They're like, oh, this kid's different from everyone else, so I'm going to be like extra nice to them. And I think that's just a way to sort of highlight that person and make them more of a target. So we need to just be careful to spread evenly the way we interact with the kids, especially the minorities. But anyway, I'm out of time, so the end.